Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of The Green Room, Pratidhwani's latest initiative where we have conversations with our creative community. And today we have John Langs joining us, the artistic director of Act Theater here in Seattle. Thank you, John, for taking the time. Um, Let me just reload my Pratidhwani page here to make sure that the video is actually working and that folks are able to see it. And look at that, there it is. Excellent. So. Hey, thanks for taking the time. Let's just start by saying hello and how are you doing? How are you doing
Oh, it's
in the
good.
crazy COVID times?
It is. These are crazy times, and I just want to thank you for reaching out. We had a conversation a little while ago, and I was reminiscing about, it's been since 2011 that Act Theater and Pratidhwani have been working together. I think their first show together was Dance Like a
Yeah.
Man. Was that?
No, it was Mother in Another Language was
Mother and
2011.
Mother? That's what it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
And yeah,
But even before that, it was actually when Kurt Beatty used to do the short stories at Town Hall, and I
right.
forget the year, but he wanted to do some readings by V.S. Naipaul, a story of an author from the Caribbean but of Indian descent. And Kurt wanted some Indian actors to read for that. So that was the first time he reached out to us looking for help in finding some talent. And then we partnered when Girish Karnad was brought to town by University of Washington, and the Vashis were involved in us making that connection. So 2011 was our first ACT Lab show. In fact, it was the Central Heating Lab at the time, was the first official production together, but there were relationships building even prior to that. But anyway, you were saying.
No, it was just wonderful to be able to talk to you about the community and how much we miss each other and what we're all going through that's so similar. And I mean, you and I were laughing before everybody got on about like those first awkward moments where we're all like, hey, I'm looking at you through a camera. What's your room look like? What's your room look like? You know,
Right.
and the whole new normal. But, working at a theater where our life is about breathing the same air, and the magic that we create is about communion, and it just feels personal when you tell us you can't gather, and
Yeah.
so here we are. And I love the title The Green Room, because some of my favorite moments in the theater are that, I mean, most of you who are watching probably know that green room is that place that holds all of the actors and all of that energy together right before we all flood out on stage and do the show. And it is a magic room where emotions are often very high and a lot of truth gets spoken and a lot of energy is exchanged. So I love the title, and thank you for having me.
Excellent. All right. And family's doing well. Laura's doing well.
Laura's doing really well. We've got a, almost 4-year-old,
Yeah.
and we're very fortunate. She's got outdoor school. So 3 days a week, she gets to get outside. And for those parents who are watching, I get it. I get it. So yes, it's an interesting challenge. So
Yeah.
we have that going for us, but things are good.
That's great. That's great to hear. I was actually talking to somebody at work, and they were saying, "Oh, when hopefully we'll hear some good news and we can go back to work." And I was like, "What do you mean go back to work? How's that good news? I'm kind of loving this no commute, no traffic business." And she said, my coworker, she said, "Agastya, maybe you don't have any kids." And I said, "Yeah, I don't." She's like, "Yeah, I really need to get out of the house and get back to work." And so I feel it. Parents do have a very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Excellent. So glad to hear that. So let's talk a little bit about theater and what's going on there. So ACT announced closer to the beginning of this whole thing that there were, obviously the season was suspended and some people were going to be furloughed, etc. How are you guys doing as an organization? What's ACT going through right now?
Like everybody else, it's challenging. The future looks okay. I think we are managing quite well through this. We're down to a staff of 15 people, and we miss our staff tremendously, and all of the great artisans that get to work at ACT Theater, and we have no work for them, and so we have trimmed everything down. We, like a lot of other theaters, are trying to find our tribe out in the digital space, and that has its advantages and disadvantages. Instead of putting all of our chips down on, creating play readings, we've decided, like you have, that this format, this very informal, get to know your community of artists, seems great for us. And so we've put our chips down on a lot of local playwrights whose plays are in workshop. We're going to show you those workshops as live theater pieces, readings when we can all gather together again.
Right.
But we are doing a lot of workshopping behind the scenes. And then in our digital space, we're presenting conversations about the plays that we're making, trying to whet the appetite of the audience, introduce you to some great artists.
And you're hosting one of those with Yusuf coming up. Is that next week, or when is that?
Yeah, that's coming up. I think it's like first of October is a conversation with Yusuf El Gindi, and I got to very fortunate to direct his play People of the Book in our last season, and God, I think he's fantastic. So yeah, that's coming up tomorrow. No, Thursday at noon. Bob Wright and Katie Forget are doing a moderated conversation by the ex-artistic director of ACT Theater, Jeff Steitzer. So before Kurt Beatty was Jeff.
Sure.
And they know where all the bones are buried in Seattle Theater. That's at noon on Thursday, so we'll hope you join us for that. And they just keep coming. So and then there's a couple of plays that we felt like maybe, we have one play, Keiko Green, local playwright. She wrote this beautiful play about a young woman who starts to write a prisoner on death row. But it's an epistolary play. It's two people. So we thought that's a play that might really excel in the Zoom space. So we've got green screens and a lot of imagination going into that particular piece to see, what's possible as we try to translate actual theater into the Zoom space. So right. That'll be it's called WAD, W-A-D.
WAD. That's it's it's funny because Keiko actually posted something on Facebook that I saw where, picture one says the whole world is burning and picture two says anyone interested in a Zoom reading that I'm doing this week. And so Keiko is an incredibly funny person indeed. So look forward to all of that. And then what happens to ACT Lab and partnerships like that? Because, from a Prathaswani perspective, one of the reasons why ACT has always been so dear to us is because of this existing relationship where Mother in Another Language, Dance Like a Man, Chitra, Devi, Queen. So we've done 5 shows together, just straight up ACT Lab. Not to mention,
right?
Plus the work on Ramayana and Ramayana from her perspective, which was a dance show or a review, I guess, that we did. So multiple layers of collaboration between our two organizations. So what is the future of that, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question and one that it brings up some stuff, actually, because we as an organization have constantly been trying to improve the experience of the ACT Lab for our partners. And certainly in relationship to Prathaswani, I think the relationship has grown. It's been great, but we feel like we can do a better job with our partners. And I think that part of what we have discovered, and I think anybody who has taken the cue from what's going on in the world to really do some soul searching, understands that we have a responsibility as a cultural organization to be maybe more of service. And I think there's a tendency in the larger theaters to think of yourself sometimes as like the elite purveyor of a certain kind of art. And you get into moving very quickly, and sometimes this vending machine mentality of regional theater can take root. And we are really digging down right now to try to say, how can we be of service? And one of the ways we think we can is by slowing down and doing a little less. It's going to be mandated by recovery, but also to say to a partner, we've partnered with you and we've given you the resources that ACT Lab can offer. And what happens if we do less but make more space in the season? So the next time that we invite you back, we partner at a different level. So we invite an SA Teatro or a Prathaswani to be a main stage partner. We really give it some real estate in the season that is like a 5 or 6 show season, as opposed to like the 14 to 19 shows that ACT was doing sometimes. And what does that mean for each organization? So we're really excited to explore what that means when we come back. But it also means that there will be bigger opportunities less frequently, perhaps for a while until we get going. And those spaces that, to be honest, have sometimes felt like, okay, well, we have this empty theater, but we don't have a lot of resources to give it. Now that could be great for a young up and coming company, but if we spent a little more time and did a little less, we could build these things out much bigger. So I think that's the future of partnership at ACT Theater, and whether that is ACT Lab remains to be seen right now.
Sure. Yeah, and it may evolve into something else, because you are rethinking not just the partnership, but your own main stage season as well. It sounds like, not, and I don't mean the digital world. I mean in the after times, whatever they look like. And I know you've been involved in a series of discussions going on amongst all the different artistic directors in town. And tell us more about that. What is that conversation like? I know it pivoted from just surviving the pandemic to increasingly social justice and causes that took on just so much more gravity over the last 90 days or so. So tell us more about what that's doing to you.
Well, yeah, you described it accurately. We all met because we were like, we're in survival mode. And I gotta say, it was beautiful, Agastya. The idea of 40 artistic directors meeting in a room, which we never get to do.
Right, sure.
But just the sense of community and the outpouring of support was thrilling. We now meet every other week, and it pivoted hard to social justice after the murder of George Floyd and everything else that's happening in the world. And again, it's a community that's doing some soul diving right now and saying, who do we all want to be when we come back? What does safe and welcoming mean? Can we share a vocabulary and a language and resources across the city that help create an equitable space in Seattle for all artists? And that is that's a lot of language. That's a lot of I could be criticized for a highfalutin, ambition. But I gotta say, I'm inspired by the kind of work that's happening, holding each other's feet to the fire. And it's certainly, you bring that back to your own theater company,
right?
And you get to say, hey, look, we're doing this as a city, but that doesn't mean that we're not personally accountable for making our own institution walk the walk as well. And I think the thing that I really want people to understand is there is a fierce urgency of now that we talk about, and that has to be balanced with, can you actually do what you say you're going to do? And somewhere in there is wisdom, and that is a very, very tricky balance that we're all trying to strike.
Wow. That's it's a complex conversation, and to be having it in the middle of a pandemic, in some ways it's fascinating that it makes it possible. Like you said, when else would 40 artistic directors or organizations be able to take the time to make it right going forward? So it's weird what the COVID situation has done in terms of taking away opportunities and creating new ones to get to a better normal, right? Instead of the same normal that we had.
Yeah, I like this city. I like these people, and that I could have said that before, just based on looking at their work, and you and I would meet 3 times a week sometimes. Sure. See each other and, hey, how you doing? And talking about our work. But when the kind of care and rigor and intelligence in our community, it's humbling. It's humbling, and you have to show up. Like, this group of artistic directors and leaders in our community is like, they have stepped up in terms of their engagement, and that's beautiful.
That's good to hear. It's I am on those email threads. I got added at some point, but given that my day job actually does allow me to work remotely and continue. Most of these conversations happen in the middle of the day, and I've just not been able to connect in person. But I do keep asking people who I know are on those calls. I'm like, hey, so what's going on over there? So thanks for catching us up and filling us in a little bit. Let's talk more about ACT. So you talked about the reading series, and you have a gala coming up. What is that going to be when you can't actually be in the room raising paddles to raise money?
We're wrecking it. We're burning it to the ground.
All right.
It's now we're calling it a benefit, and that's very deliberate because our community has always been incredibly generous. They've stepped up for it. You yourself made a donation to ACT Theater when we were in the middle of taking that first face blow of the pandemic, and I want to say
Just
thank
to clarify. Oh, you're welcome. But to clarify, when you say you yourself, you're referring to Prathadwani, not me. But go ahead. Yes. Yeah.
You, the great you, who's beyond this camera. It meant so much to us, and many of our members of the community did. And yet we have this, everybody's up against this incredible moment, and we certainly have to raise a lot of money to come back strong. So the benefit is the way we do it. But we talk about, all of the old tropes of a gala, like we just kind of threw them out the window, and we said we're going to invite people to a great night online. We have terrific, Claudine Mboli Polaninako is one of our core company members, and we have sort of virtually handed the mic to her to curate the entertainment for the evening. So that's terribly exciting to us. We have a lot of surprise guests coming in. It's October 9th, if you're interested to come and check it out. And there's just a lot of surprise and delight throughout the evening. Some of it's super live, and we're trying things that we hope will work. And some of it's pre-recorded, and people from all over the country who have been artists at ACT Theater will be represented. So that is an opportunity that you don't get when you have to get everybody in the room. You're calling your friends who are now having a career down in Los Angeles and saying, you love ACT Theater, you do. What about that monologue that you did last time you were here? So.
Right. Yeah, it's funny because we've been able to do that too. As one of the things that Prathadwani is continuing to do on a periodic basis is just, we used to gather in a library room and read a play and talk about it and learn from it. And we've done established plays, and we've done new plays in that series. And again, it used to be who's free on a given Sunday and who's able to drive down to Bellevue or Mercer Island or whichever library we're meeting in for that discussion. Now we do it online. And so it's like, oh, you moved to California a couple of years ago? No big deal. Come join and listen in on a play. Or, hey, do you want to be a part of the reading group that's going to do it? So again, just so bizarre that this is how we're doing theater, because I never thought a 13-inch screen is how I wanted to see my live theater. But it does allow other avenues of engagement that we didn't have before.
Silver linings where we can.
Yeah, right. Small victories wherever we can get them. So hey, I wanna ask. So you mentioned the Prathadwani donation, and we're pleased that we were able to do that. But also feels like it was so early in the pandemic. Like we saw shows canceling. We saw all these companies that had sets built and ready to go, and they were in the middle of tech, and that's it. Everything got shut down, and so it was clear to us that not only theater companies but also venues are going to need help. And so what we did in Prathadwani, just to toot our little horn for a minute, but what we did was made a list of organizations and venues in town that we have partnered with in the past or we're planning to partner in the near future, and tried to raise some funds and distribute that out, which was wonderful for us to be able to do, for the donors who contributed to that towards Prathadwani's effort. But boy, in the end, it was such a drop, right? It felt like people are suffering losses of this size, and we're like, here you go, here's a tiny little bit of help. So it was both, it gave us joy to be able to help, but at the same time, there was a lid on that joy because there were limits to what we were able to do. But I do want to ask, what else can people do? We'll do what we can as an organization, but what does ACT Theater need from the greater community, not just the theater community right now?
Yeah, I think like all theaters, and I can speak broadly because I'm with this group of artistic directors. If you believe, like you say it's a small drop, but spiritually for us, when that check showed up, it sort of took our breath away. That you just, even in your own chaos, thought that your partner organization needed a lift, and we all certainly do. But a cultural life, if you believe in living a cultural life in Seattle, these places have to survive. And we have seen a degeneration of foundation support and corporate support. It's really the individuals who are saying, I want to live in a great city, and a great city has great art. And so anytime that you can show up for a company that you believe in, you just got to know that you're contributing to the vitality of this place that we all call home. And you are contributing to a spiritual life. Because ultimately, I don't think you or I or anybody who believes or does the theater doesn't understand that it's our soul food. And it's so interesting, right? Like, I had a moment the other day where I finally got outside to get a beer, right? And I had a similar story related to me by a board member, and I was like, oh yeah, sure, I'm sure that happened. But then it happened to me, and the story is there was live music, like in a garage 2 doors away from where I was getting a beer. And I gotta say, Agasti, brought a tear to my eye because I was like, it's been so long since I felt like there was some live interchange between the art that someone was making and my person in the flesh. And so that's what you give to when you support ACT Theater, or when you support the Hansberry Project, or Sound Theater, or any number of these great organizations that are working in town. So yeah, I would say that's how you show up right now with
That's
your
great.
belief.
Well, thank you. And I'll add to that. One of the things that we continue to do at Prataswani is try to find ways to support not just organizations, but artists, individuals who have lost their livelihood because of one reason or another right now. And the vehicle we're sort of using for that support is the Seattle Artist Relief Fund that is administered by Langston or under the Langston umbrella. And so anyone watching or anyone else in general, if you feel like you need to help out an arts organization, that's easy. Go to their website, make a donation. But if you don't know how to help an individual artist who may be struggling to just keep their cell phone bill paid, I mean, it is the most basic of things right now that that a lot of people are struggling with. Either look up Langston or just go to the Prataswani website and make a donation and put in a note there that this is for artists, and we're continuing to, in batches, funnel that money towards the relief fund. So, great. Hey, I think that's a wonderful note to end our conversation on, of helping people and showing up for each other and interacting with live music while getting a beer. So, thank you, thank you, John, for taking the time and being a part of the green room. And everyone else who's watching, thanks for watching, and keep an eye out for more of these conversations with our creative community.